Michigan, SPTA, nice. Welcome, Benjamin. Nice, nice. Keep flooding the chat, keep flooding the chat.
Oklahoma representing, what's up?
All right, so everyone can continue to add in where they're coming from, what year they are, if they're SPT, SPTA, or they're a practicing clinician. But I think we can go ahead and start with tonight's student social. So again, thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Taylor. I'm currently a rising third-year student physical therapist, and I serve as the nominating committee chair-elect on the Student Assembly Board of Directors. And tonight we're going to talk about why representation matters in physical therapy. We are here with Carmen Elliott and Barney Keitt. And if both of you would just like to give a little bit of an introduction so some of our people here can know a little bit more about you.
Great, I'll start first, Barney, if you don't mind.
No,
So good evening, everyone. I am Carmen Elliott, APTA's Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And I also serve as the Executive Director of the Physical Therapy Fund. I've been on staff with APTA for almost 15 years now. And prior to my current role, I served as the Vice President of Payments. So when you hear about APTA or Blue Cross Blue Shield not paying you for what you do, that was me, right? So that's what I did. I advocated on behalf of the profession to ensure that you all are paid or reimbursed for what you do, and also ensure that patients have access to physical therapist services. Barney?
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Barney Keitt, and I'm from South Carolina. I'm born and raised, live in the capital. I am currently serving as a PTA and clinical supervisor at my place of employment, which is acute care rehab facility at a hospital. And I also am an adjunct instructor for 2 PTA programs in Columbia, Midlands Tech and South University. Along with that, I'm also serve as the PTA caucus rep, which my term ends actually ended in April, but I will be attending the House of Delegates this year. And I also sit on the nominating committee for the PTA caucus rep. That's
Awesome.
me in a nutshell.
Yeah, so thank you both again for being here with us tonight. For everyone who's here watching, if you have a question, please feel free to either put it in the chat. You can use the raise the hand feature, or you can message me as well. And we can definitely have your questions answered. And so we have a few things prepped, but again, we want this to be more of an open conversation. You can get to know our 2 speakers a little bit more as well if you have any questions sort of in that realm. And so we're gonna go ahead and just start with the first question that we have had written here. So Carmen and Barney, how would you define representation?
So
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Barney. Go ahead.
When I read that question, I kind of thought of just equality, promoting equality as a whole for all ethnicities and social background, ages, and abilities. Also having that seat at the table to be able to communicate effectively, not just my views, but for my peers as well, my team members. So decisions can be made based on background and not just from one person's point of view.
Yeah, so when I hear representation, I think about opportunity. That's the one word that really strikes with me, is opportunity. It allows us to bring different perspectives, to Barney's point, to the table. And then those perspectives are really informed by our experiences and our identities. So it could be your geographical location, it could be your family structure, your race, your sexual orientation. But to me, representation matters so that the full story can be told And so that you just don't want to have one side of the story, but it's a fair representation of all perspectives, everyone who's at the table, all the diverse perspectives. And there's so many dimensions of diversity. So it's representation to me represents all those dimensions at the table.
Thank you both for those responses. I think I agree a lot with some of the sentiments that you both said, and especially having a seat at the table and making sure that everyone has their own voice. I think that's super important. And so going on to another question, and again, feel free for anyone, if you want to jump in and either unmute yourself, raise your hand, please feel free to do so. But for another question, how can representation lead to improved outcomes in education as well as in the workforce?
I'll start with that one as well, Carmen, I think. For me, it can lead to a better outcome and a more diverse outcome when it comes to education and our colleagues in the workplace. For example, when I was in high school many years ago, we didn't have representation from the physical therapy world, but I knew I wanted to work in healthcare field. And working in the healthcare field, the only thing I could think of at the time was nursing. So I kind of went to college. I was on the nursing track, and along with that, I sought out to become a CNA, and I worked in the hospital. My current employment, I worked there on a rehab, on the rehab floor. I'm sorry, and just seeing the physical therapists, the PTAs, the OTs, the coders, and the speech therapists, I didn't know it was that many diverse healthcare fields out there. So I sought out, I knew I didn't want to go to school for a very, very long time, which I ended up doing anyway. But I wanted to become a physical therapist assistant because it was all hands-on and all that. So, and I didn't have a business mindset at the time, but I'm glad I pursued what I have so far because it has given me the opportunity to grow as well. But just seeing with me, now I give back by going to high schools and middle schools just to put my face out there, put the profession out there at a young age so that when they when they graduate high school, they won't have to think about and sort out different opportunities. My face is already there and they can reach out to me and I can hopefully help them along the way. So that's why I think representation can improve education and the workforce. With the education, I always also stress, because it's a lot of sciences in our field, so I've always stressed to students, you need to know this science. Get it down with the basics first, and you build upon that rather than trying to learn it all at one time, where it can be very difficult and then you probably won't succeed. So education, workforce, that's me in the representation outcome.
Yeah, I would add to that there are a lot of studies out there that really support how representation does improve outcomes. For example, in 2018, Johns Hopkins University did a study entitled Black Students Who Have One Black Teacher More Likely to Go to College. And if we specifically talk about the area of education, specifically talk about the African-American community, this study is so compelling. It talks about how if a Black student has just one Black teacher by third grade, that student is 13% more likely to enroll in college. And those who have two Black teachers throughout their elementary school years were 32% more likely to go to college. So I mean, there are a lot of studies out there that really prove how it improves outcomes when there is representation. And again, very specific to the African-American community, but if they have one person who looks like them, who really influenced or impacted their elementary school years, there's a higher percentage that this student will continue on with their academic career as far as college and potentially graduate school as well. So again, I mean, the evidence shows diverse teachers, diverse leadership, diverse school cultures create higher expectations. It creates a stronger community and also better outcomes for students. Myself, to Barney's point earlier, I do have a knack for business. My goal was to become a medical doctor because that's what I grew up hearing, why don't you become an MD? Why don't you become an MD? I have a BS in biology, a master's in healthcare administration, and I applied for PT school. Didn't get accepted, but what the school did say, Carmen, we think you would be a great fit in our healthcare administration program, and found that I had a great knack for business on the healthcare side. So it is all about who you interact with, who you connect with as far as mentoring. And I'll talk a little bit about that too, about mentorship and sponsorship, but it's all about who you interact with and who really impress you as you are growing up through your academic years.
That was great. Definitely thank you both for those responses. And I kind of want to turn it to the audience right now, just so we can get a little bit more of an interaction. So does anyone feel free to share some experiences or in terms of how representation is for their school and what that looks like right now, or as a practicing clinician, what it looked like when you were in school? Because I know for me personally, there was not a lot of different backgrounds in my PT school as well. So that was something that we were really focusing on trying to build on in terms of building a community and have more representation within our school. But does anyone have any other experiences that they would like to share?
I guess I would say I'm pretty shocked at the there's very little representation in our program, and we live in Alaska, and so that might be part of it. But we only have one male student in our classroom, and it's mostly women, and it's mostly white women in the program. It's interesting. So I'm here to hear more representation and how it matters. I believe that it does matter, and kind of figure out what I could do to help make that happen. But as a student, I guess right now, all I'm doing is being here, right? I'm grateful that I got into the program, and recognizing that there is not a lot of representation, not a lot of diversity in our program.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing. And we actually got one question in the chat, and so I'd like to bring this up for Barney and Carmen, as well as anyone who would like to respond. How would you say the profession of physical therapy is embracing representation, and what might be some steps that can be taken to help exhibit representation?
So I'll start there. And this is an excellent question. I will say back in 2016, so I'm putting a little context here, our CEO at the time, Justin Moore, and Dr. Sharon Dunn, our board of directors chair, begin to map out what do they want the next 100 years of the profession to look like. And one of those bold moves that they identified was to reignite our passion for diversity and inclusion. And we have done that. If anything, we are having more conversations than we perhaps had. We are building up resources, we're building up tools to ensure that our members are successful in advancing this particular area. For example, we recently started what we call our Physical Therapy Moves Me Ambassador Program. And this is a student pipeline, a student recruitment program in which we identify a faculty at each DPT, PTA program, and also a student. They are nominated actually, and they will, we give them tools, we give them resources to go out to the local high schools and to the local elementary schools and really speak to the profession, speak to the breadth and depth of physical therapy, and to bring awareness to the community about physical therapists. We find that, and I'm sure you all can attest to this, that 9 times out of 10, one person may decide to go into physical therapy because they interacted with a physical therapist, right? So everyone always interacted with a physician or a nurse practitioner, but usually a person goes into the profession of PT because they interacted with a physical therapist. But how do we get that in front of students earlier? Literature shows that as early as 3rd grade, students are already thinking about what they want to do as far as their career. So we have to introduce this to them earlier. So this is something that we're doing as far as strategies to really build that student pipeline for the profession. We also have partnered with the National Society of Healthcare Scholars and also HOSA, which is Future Healthcare Professionals, that we get into those students, right? We go and we market, we promote physical therapy, introduce physical therapy to them. We have interactive exercises with them so they can better understand what it's all about. So we're really seeing a renewed passion and specifically in the DEI area and specifically in student pipeline to get more students involved and want to come into this great profession.
And I would like to add, being on the nominating committee and looking at it from that standpoint, I feel like the APTA is being represented by having different nominations or people running for different offices, not just for the non-com, but for board of directors and what have you in that area as well. And I can honestly say coming in, I think 2015, just looking at it, it was all Caucasian on the board of directors, but now I think it's diverse, more diverse that is. And that may be because of the initiative of Justin Moore and planning that 100-year strategy for that. So that's just my thought, just off the rim, so.
So we have Elizabeth raising her hand. You can go ahead.
Hi, nice to meet you guys. One thing that our curriculum is starting to do that I think is very helpful is integrating more diversity into the content. So just for example, when we're learning about things like hemositter and staining, you know, showing a diverse group of examples with different skin tones, even the content needs to be more diverse so that we can be there for our patients and being able to recognize, you know, skin conditions early or abnormalities on different skin tones.
Elizabeth, you bring up a great point. I want to share this example really quickly. So I was on a panel discussion with the American Occupational Therapy Association and the American Speech and Hearing Association, and they were speaking about how PTs, OTs, speech pathologists work in rehab settings. And some of the patients realized that the shampoos and the conditioners that were used in the rehab agency was not conducive to people of color and their hair texture is just different. So with that said, some of the PTs actually spoke up and said, we recommend different options for hair products for our patients. And shockingly enough, the rehab agency made those changes, but just small things like that make a difference because you recognize that, again, representation, right? So we want to be sure that what matters to people is small things like that really matter. And then when action follows behind recommendation, so the intent is good, when action follows behind that, that's what's important. So we can have these discussions all the time and have great listening sessions, but it has to be followed up with action.
And I agree with Carmen on that because I was just reading an article, I think it was on Friday, Leading While Black, that came out by the Chartist group in the National Association of Health Services Executive. I know we're talking about physical therapy, but it's still related to healthcare. A CEO of a hospital was had to keep signing off for this expensive procedure for people of color due to childbirth. And so it just dawned on him one day, it was like, why I keep signing off on this? Why is this group of people keep having to have this procedure done? So he took it upon himself to form a study to sort out the reason why this was a problem or a case for different people of color rather than all ethnicities or what have you. So I haven't finished reading the article yet, but that just stuck out when you asked that question or made that statement. But that is very, very important as well.
And so I think Oh, wait, someone was just asking, could you repeat the organizations that assist with the pipeline in the schools?
So I'm assuming that question's for me, Teo?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so there are over 130 programs right now. There's a list. So what I can do, I can follow up with Lisa, and Lisa will get that list to the student board. Will that work, Teo and Gus? Will that work for you guys? For me to get the list to you all, or schools are involved? Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's over 130 schools. So instead of going through the list now, I could get that to you all.
And I think just for a quick little clarification there, Alexander, please feel free to unmute if you like, but I think what you're trying to ask there is every school was assigned. And I think that's right, Carmen. All these schools were assigned to have a representative within a program director and then somebody to be nominated already within that school. So ask the program director, hey, what are you guys doing with this pipeline initiative? And then there, start that conversation.
Yeah, so the process was all about the physical therapy Move Me student pipeline that went out to all the programs. And of course, they had to elect in, right? So they had to nominate their faculty and their student representative. So right now we have over 130 that have nominated someone to represent their program. And of course, we're hearing from others and it continues to grow. But right now we definitely have over 130 signed up.
So kind of going along this way of trying to start the action and going beyond just the conversations that we are having, are there any other ways that students and clinicians can start to reach out to their communities and create pipeline initiatives beyond PT Moves Me?
Barney, you want to go first? Or you want me to go ahead?
I'm thinking, go ahead.
Okay, of course. Yeah, so again, right now, that's the program that APTA has built a brand around is PT Moves Me. And Alexandra, I think another point to your question, which you probably are trying to get at, and I didn't necessarily hit the nail on the head on that one, is to work with the local chapters of the National Society of High School Scholars, NSHSS, and also HOSA, which is Future Health Professionals of America. So those are two organizations that's what they do, right? They spend time providing tools and resources to their members about potential healthcare fields to go into. And so that's another opportunity, not only with PT Moves Me, even though we have a partnership with both of those entities, but they have local chapters. So with students, with our members, you can get involved with the local chapters of both National Society of High School Scholars and also with HOSA to be able to participate in some of the programming that they have. Of course, COVID hit pretty hard and a lot of the on-site programs we weren't able to participate in, but they are having a lot of virtual events too, which we have participated in. And then we're starting to see where they're reopening some other events coming up as well. I will also recommend too that visit our website and go to APTA Engage. And there you can volunteer. We have a lot of volunteer opportunities specific to D&I. Just go in, fill out a profile if you haven't already, indicated diversity, equity, inclusion, and then we will reach out to you as opportunities come up. Recently, we just did a call out for our ambassadors on the PT Moves Me program, in which they were able to volunteer for some local things that were happening at the local level. So a lot of opportunities there. We just want to be sure that you guys get this in front of you, get it on your radar to be able to make an impact for where you are as well.
And then to your program can get with some local high schools or middle schools and have students participate in some career day, because I know a lot of schools still have career day opportunities for students where they learn about different careers out there, speak with the guidance counselors at those high schools and middle schools, and just take an active role. Like me, I started with mentoring two young men on an elementary level, and I have seen them now. They're in the 9th grade, or going to the 9th grade, I should say. And they have become, their behavior was really, really bad. But now they have calmed down a little bit, and they're back on a more successful track rather than just sitting on the sideline. I could have been like, okay, I'm just here to have lunch or provide that adult vision for them. But I feel like just going to the local high schools and just putting your face out there, talking to the different guidance counselors or what have you. Also in my area, we have, it's not going to come to me right now, different programs at the vocational schools where you can go in and volunteer as well and speak to students on that level. We call it Voc School or vocational school. I don't know if that's in everyone's area, but that's another opportunity out there as well.
Thank you both for that. And so I wanted to make a little bit of a switch or a shift because I think this is something that's important to talk about, especially because we have a lot more student physical therapists here. But how can we advocate for our student physical therapist assistants and our physical therapist assistants as well? Because it seems more as we go through our programs, it's more focused on our curriculum and learning about the DPT, but how can we also advocate for the SPTAs and the PTAs?
I can start with that one, Carmen. I think that can go to your PTA and PT program directors. About 2 years ago, I participated in a talk, that's all it was, with the PT students at MUSC in Charleston. And then we had 2 PTA programs, Orangeburg Calhoun Technical College and Trident Technical College. Trident is in Charleston and OC Tech is in Orangeburg, South Carolina, which is about maybe 20 miles from, 40 miles from Charleston. So we were in this big auditorium and we had the PT students collaborating and thinking through, brainstorming through different ideas, scenarios with patients or what have you, just to see how they interact. And it went really, 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 really well. The professors also brought books and we all learned from the same textbooks pretty much for the most part. So I think that is one way, get with your program directors and have them collaborate with the PTA program directors. That's one way, and having those students interact together. Also at my alma mater, Midlands Technical College, go Midlands Tech. They have, they use the nursing programs sim lab, and they have the students from USC in Columbia think through problems and patient scenarios during the sim lab. So that's another way they can, you all can advocate for PTAs. Then we can't talk enough about communication. Communication is key in any profession. Just sometimes just sit down and have that talk with your PTA and see where they feel, see how they think, and be open to suggestions or what have you. Coming out of PTA school, not saying that we know it all, but I've been told that we are the what was it? I forgot what it was called, but you all are the thinkers and we all are the doers. So we do it more than you all do, PTs that is. So we have a lot of tricks up our sleeves, a lot of interventions up our sleeves. So just advocate, just having that communication, that open communication, that dialogue, and then serve as a mentor, be open-minded and serve as a mentor to your PTA. You can, well, I can learn a lot from you and you can learn from me as well, but because you have that high degree, sometimes we do learn a little bit more and more of the reasoning why you suggest something or write that goal out or what have you, just being able to explain it to the PTAs. That's another form of advocating for the PTAs as well. Internships is another way. If your organization or facility is able to provide internship, seek out patients, seek out individuals that are willing to be open to going to PT or PTA school and have that conversation. I don't know how many are there. I don't know if everyone's on here is a student or not, but we may have some clinicians out there, but make that suggestion to your manager can we hire so-and-so because he's thinking about or she's thinking about going to a PT or PTA school. So that way they can have that background before actually going into the program.
Well, Barney said quite a bit there. So the only other thing I would add is that keep having events like this. I mean, that's a great way to continue to advocate. When you have events like this, it creates a networking, it creates an opportunity to communicate, and it creates a sense of belonging. So having events like this, you all have the advantage of utilizing social media, right? And communicating through social media platforms. And that's a great way to advocate. That's a great way to get your voice heard, advocate on behalf of the profession, on behalf of students. So, and second to that, we'll also just say volunteer. Where there are opportunities, just volunteer. And that will allow, again, from the top of the hour when we talked about representation, right? So just be able to volunteer because that will ensure that your voice is heard within the mix, that your voice is heard at the table. So again, having events like this is one way. And then second is just to volunteer at every opportunity you could possibly have.
Thank you. And so right now we're going to head into a little bit of announcements. And so again, feel free to have some questions ready when we come back from them. And I'm going to hand over the virtual mic to Gustavo Martinez.
What's up, y'all? Thanks again for coming out tonight. I know y'all have different things to do this evening, but we appreciate you here supporting these conversations. So thank you. Thanks for coming out tonight. And I want to start off with a congratulations, y'all. You guys are transitioning, many of you from first to second, second to third. Some of y'all already graduated in the boat with me and Lindsay. So hey, congrats. All right, keep it going, keep striving. You got this, guys. So some of the announcements. This upcoming Friday, July 18th at 7 p.m., in honor of our centennial year, we'll be having an APTA Live. And we invite you to join us, to join Director of Communications, Lindsay Durand, DPT, congratulations, Lizzie, of APTA Student Assembly Board of Directors, with Kelly Quigley, who is the Centennial Ambassador for the APTA Student Assembly, and Gingy Burchett, who's APTA Senior Information Resource Specialist, for a discussion on our professional history. And we'll discuss professional milestones as well and take questions from you guys. So I hope to see you there Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Also, we wanted to let you guys know a little thing about the NHS student loan repayment. So the National Health Services Corp student loan repayment legislation was introduced in the House of Representatives this past week and would add PTs to the National Health Service Corp's loan repayment program. So that would help provide greater access to patients for rehabilitation services. So there's a link here that we'll send in the chat for you guys to see what that letter, so you can send a letter to your Congress people for support and to co-sponsor. Also, continuing on that note, you have until June 30th to complete an anonymous survey to explore your interests as a PT student, so the National Health Services Corps can see what can be helpful for you and advocating in efforts with Congress. Now, I want to tell you guys about the Knowledge Bowl, Wednesday, June 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. If you haven't heard about this, this is a real cool opportunity to learn about some questions that are going to be on that big tests coming up for you guys, the NPTE and the NPTAE. So APTA, along with EBS, will host a virtual APTA Knowledge Bowl sponsored by Score Builders on Wednesday, June 30th, 7 p.m. Eastern. So mark those calendars. 10 teams have been selected from different DPT programs across the country. It's going to be a quiz show style, test that knowledge. You guys can be there, see what you guys know, and just helping in preparation for the exam. There'll be audience participation and all those awesome things. So there's a link that'll be sent out through there, just talking more about that coming up. And questions will be discussed along the way. So there's a lot to glean for all you students, all right? And there's gonna be giveaways too, so hey, Get some of that, come get some free stuff, tell your classmates. Another announcement, the APTA Future of Physical Therapy Summit Video Contest. So this is a 1-minute video that needs to be submitted by June 30th. And it will consist of exploring the future of physical therapy based on the following themes. 1, building a community. 2, advancing the profession of physical therapy. Or 3, improving the health of society. The video must be submitted by a physical therapy student. APTA is giving away APTA Centennial journals, like the one I'm having here, taking notes right now, for the first 50 students who submit videos that meet the contest requirements by the deadline. There's a link there posting with more of the rules to expand on. And guys, please, in the chat real quick, post if you're a PT, if you're an SPT or an SPTA, type that in right now. I want to see what's in that chat because I got a huge announcement here for the SPTAs. Oh man, I'm seeing those SPTAs come up on the chat. Guys, SPTAs, listen to me right now. Applications for the Student Assembly Board of Directors have been extended for SPTAs until June 18th, this Friday. Your representation and perspective are wanted and needed, y'all. So please connect with NomCom, be it me, Patrick, or Teo. If you have any questions or thoughts, link is going to be set up there to access that application. We really want you guys within our groups to have to have those conversations and so forth in that leadership. So please consider applying if you're an SPTA student, and they'll have more information of what's required and so forth. But also contact again me, Teo, Gus. We're there for you. We can help you out through that process, but we really need your guys' perspective, and we want that because that helps build the profession. And this is an opportunity to really make an impact by leading 30,000 plus students. And if you know somebody who would really want that, reach out to them and have them connect with us to know more. Another announcement is House of Delegates Student Network, y'all. So be on the lookout for communication regarding the House of Delegates Student Network. If you have opinions on DEI and physical therapy, what are we talking about today? Productivity standards in physical therapy and the future of physical therapy specialization, we want to hear from you, y'all. So if you'd like to be first to know when to sign up on the live, when the signups go live, email, and they'll drop the email there in the chat box to join the contact list. All right, final announcement, y'all, and then I promise I'm done for the evening, okay? APTA student membership benefit of the month. Hey, I need to do this early career due discount. I need to set that up real quick because if not, I'm gonna be charged a full price. So for you, those who have already graduated or about to graduate, this is something to consider. And if you're just the first year, hey, keep this in mind. APTA early career dues discount is the way to save 50% up to $270 off your national chapter and participating sections due in your first year post-graduation. What do you need to do to make this happen? Or to receive that discount? Nothing. Your membership renewal will automatically reflect it when you go and renew, and they'll automatically do it. So just make sure you do that when you go renew. And how do you become eligible for this? Make sure your APTA student membership is active at graduation. Note that again, guys. If you want this discount to happen, you have to be a member, an active member when graduation is happening in order to get the discount, and maintain continuous APT membership post-graduation. So again, please reach out to your Student Assembly Board Director of Membership, James Anderson, and they'll put his Twitter there and email for more information. All right, guys, that was a lot, but thanks for tuning into those announcements. Now I'm switching it back to Teo. Let's see those questions come in for Carmen and Barney.
Thank you, Gustavo, for the announcements, but I'm actually going to be passing it over to Patrick, and he is going to continue the conversation.
What's up, guys? So, clarification, one of those announcements, the APTA Live is July 18th, 7 p.m. Eastern. So, July 18th, not this Friday, so you'll be the only one there. But we have time for like 1 or 2 more questions for Elliott and Barney. So anyone have any questions, please type it in the chat. But first, I do have one question. So how will the PT fund improve DEI?
Yeah, Great question, Patrick. And let me say this real quick. If I had half of the energy that Gustavo have, I tell you, you make me want to go back to being a student all over again. Just awesome energy, really. Okay, so back to my question here. So the PT fund, right? So for context, the physical therapy fund was established back in 1993 by APTA to support the association's DE&I efforts, and really was building a scholarship program for minority represented students. And I am so happy to say that we have awarded over $1 million in scholarships to date. So really excited about that. And second, leading up to the centennial, APTA initiated a 2-year program called Future for Generation campaign. So it was really about, which falls under our strategic plan, sustaining the profession, really about just future generations, thinking about how we want to continue on sustaining the profession, stewardship of the profession. So the goal was to have a 2-year program in which we would, of course, encourage people to donate toward our Future for our campaign for Future Generations campaign. And the goal was to raise over $1 million within 2 years. And I'm happy to say that we have exceeded that goal. We still have the end of 2021 to go to, but we have raised over $1 million just within a year and a half. And just think, it took us almost 20 years to raise over $1 million before under the Minority Scholarship Fund, but within 2 years, we have raised over $1 million to go toward scholarships. So we're really excited about that. And then third, I would say about that, what we did introduce under the PT fund. So we always have the Minority Scholarship Fund. That's kind of our standing scholarship award program. Something else we started was called the Dimensions of Diversity Fund. And the purpose of this fund is still being fleshed out, but what we are doing is we want to have other opportunities for DE&I that's not very specific to scholarships, right? So could we create a student pipeline? Could we create a grant program so it's available for those who are doing great work within the community, doing some type of community engagement? So just different things we want to think about and be really creative, specific to DE&I with the Dimensions of Diversity Fund. So with that said, those are all the areas that we plan to do with the PT Fund. I'm very excited to be leading this effort, but as I like to tell folks all the time, we often hear that DE&I is a marathon, not a sprint. I will argue that a marathon ends, right? It takes a long time, but it ends. I will argue that DE&I is a journey. So it's always evolving, right? So we'll continue to learn from each other. We continue to make improvements to the programs that we have implemented. We want to hear from you all. What makes sense, right? So what makes sense to use with those dollars? So we welcome to hearing from our members about what we should do. Again, but it's a great opportunity for us to do something that's considered to be unrestricted, and we could definitely use it for the area of DE&I.
Thank you for that. We do have one question a couple questions in the chat. Sammy asks, what advice do you have for increasing participation amongst classmates and engaging in DE&I initiatives?
Barney, you want to start?
I would think probably just being that voice, speak up, I guess. Thinking off the top of my head here. Let's see. Take that person that needs a little help, not just that needs a little help, that may be struggling a little bit. Take them under your wings and kind of help them grow into the clinician that the best clinician they possibly can. With that being said, because usually I won't say all struggle, but some people struggle more than others. I don't know how to answer that one. That's kind of hard. Go ahead, Carmen, give it a shot.
Yeah, I'll jump in there for a moment. So if I'm not sure if anyone on call, you probably heard of this before. It's called bystander intervention. And basically it's being that ally, right? But really speaking up and interceding on behalf of someone who may be experiencing a particular aggression. So I would say for those students who may be uncomfortable in speaking up, learn, right? So, I mean, there's so many tools out there. And I definitely would say if you can Google bystander intervention, I believe it's called Holla Back, HOLLA back.com. I think that's where you can find that information. Go there, find tools to be that advocate, be that ally for others in your class. So it doesn't hurt to learn about it, right? So that's how we make a difference. So we should be, lifelong learners, but just go and learn about it, how to be that ally for someone who may be experiencing loneliness or maybe experiencing aggression from others. And yeah, it is, it's tough, right? But when you go and learn more about it, you also have, of course, at your schools, you have administrative offices that you can go to and speak on someone's behalf too. I would highly recommend that if you see there's something that's going on beyond your control, because there are a lot of things that are beyond our control. But there are resources in place that we can go to. So I highly recommend that also. And thank you, James, for putting that in there.
Carmen, what was the name of that program?
Sure, it's so the term is called bystander intervention, and the website to get the tools and resources to learn more about that is called Holla Back, HOLLABACK.org.
Thank you for that, Carmen. And that also ties into that last question of how to be a better ally. So thank you for giving us some resources to do that. So if there isn't any more questions, we can go into the breakout room. So yeah, don't feel, so we'll be in the breakout rooms for 15 to 20 minutes. It's not mandatory. You can go if you need to. Carmen and Barney, feel free to join the breakout rooms as well, but this is the time just for all the students or new grads or whoever is here just to connect with one another. So please, I invite everyone to stay and just chat and get to know each of us. Thank you, Carmen and Barney, for dropping some knowledge on us. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.